that we know that this is bad. Each and every one of us, we have something we admire, a behavior, a character, a virtue we admire, and would have wished that we also had such a behavior, or we had such a virtue, habit, or character. But unfortunately, we struggle and we are unable to have such a behavior. Within the few verses and taking scenes of virtues from the life of Rasulullah alaihi wasallam, we are going to see how we can elicit, we can extract some key principles that will help us in terms of we struggling to do away with our bad behaviors, and if we've developed them into habits, to do away with our bad habits, and if the habits are developed and concretized in the form of addictions, how do we do away with it? More importantly, to the good ones too, how do we acquire them? Before Ramadan starts, certain lofty and good behaviors that we did not have them in our lives, alhamdulillah, with the barakah that Allah Azza wa Jal had put in Ramadan, not even only for Muslims and not only for, let's say, those who fear Allah Azza wa Jal, hudan linnas, as a guide to the whole of mankind, wa bayyinatin min al-huda, and then also an opportunity for us to extract the principles and explanations in that particular guidance that are easily offered in this month of Ramadan. Wal Furqan, being able to nurture the sense of distinction even beyond taqwa, the sense of distinction and knowing that this is a good thing but then might carry me away from Allah Azza wa Jal, so that we don't even go near to those non-obligatory good things that have the opportunity to take us far away from Allah Azza wa Jal. These are faculties that by the rahmah and mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, with the month of Ramadan, it becomes easier for us to develop these faculties. So how do we develop those ones? So basically, these are the things that we want to have a look at. More especially at the time that when you choose 10 Muslim young people, hardly won't you find 7 of them well engrossed in technology addiction, addicted to their phones. And I normally say that one of the easiest way of punishing the youth of today is just for you to call them, seize their phones for 2-3 days. That is enough punishment and imprisonment for them. Unnecessary addiction to the phone, beyond that one, addiction to pornography, addiction to masturbation, going beyond that one too, and if we are not even lucky, we get into fornication. On and on, we get into corruption, stealing, and so many other unwanted behaviors that from time to time we sit there and we think ourselves and say, look, this is not good, we should have. Behavioral addiction put aside, sometimes even substance addiction, we find ourselves ranging away from the mild ones, normal unnecessary addiction to food that will play no function with respect to our health, and then also with respect to our development. From time to time we find ourselves in them, and those that are even harmful, from time to time we find ourselves in them. Alcohol or unnecessary other drinks and food, and sometimes even drugs, we find ourselves in them. Beyond all these things, certain lifestyles that we find ourselves inside, gambling, and then unnecessary relationship that are even virtual, not physical, that take control of our mind and takes control of our hearts and never leave us on our own to naturally explore the inherent diverse opportunities and potentialities that Allah Azza wa Jalla created us with. Unfortunately, some of these things, when we talk about it, listening to us, you find it difficult to understand as people who hadn't lived at the era that there was no telephone at all. So therefore, there was no distortion of the mental activities. You had absolute control over it. Your emotional internal feelings, you had absolute control over it, and little visual and kinesthetic specific cues could interrupt your mental activities and your emotional internal react. So you people being exposed and being bombarded with so many things in technology, it is really very difficult for you to feel and understand what we call the self, living in yourself and realizing your natural inherent potentialities. It's difficult because hardly would you have been able to live a day without any interruption. You cannot enjoy what Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed through, sitting down in a cave for the whole of the day, thinking alone without any interruption. You will see it to be punishment. It was enjoyment. Locking yourself in a room alone, sitting down, reflection, pondering, being in the bush, on the mountain, in the cave, sitting down, thinking, looking at nature and thinking into details. Do you think if Einstein's and co had the telephones that you people had now and all the technologies that you had now, the dendrite networks in their minds would have looked like yours? Your own is constricted. Though you think you know everything, their own were wide and highly networked because they kept on thinking, and wherever they had an obstacle they had to think and go beyond that one. Our brain is being removed and put within our palms now, and they are thinking for us.